Hey guys, tonight we are finding peace in the process. The snow is falling on the monastery roof, but down here in the cellar, the air is warm and smells like fresh milk. We are joining the Cheesemaker Monk. We are going to turn liquid into gold, preserving the summer harvest for the winter. This is a story about patience, chemistry, and the quiet satisfaction of a full shelf. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Now, watch the steam rise from the copper vat, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The monastery sleeps. In the darkness before dawn, when the world is still wrapped in winter silence, when the snow falls soft and steady on the stone walls and timber roofs, when the wind whispers through the bare branches of the orchard trees, the brothers are deep in their dreams. They sleep in their narrow cells, wrapped in wool blankets, their breath forming small clouds in the cold air. They sleep the sleep of men who have prayed and worked and eaten simply. They sleep the sleep of those who know that when the bell rings for lauds, they will rise again, and the day will begin as it always begins, with prayer and work, and the rhythms of a life lived close to God and earth. But one brother is awake. He has been awake for some time now. Brother Thomas, the dairy monk, the keeper of milk and cheese, the guardian of the monastery's store of preserved goodness. He has been awake since the night was at its deepest, since the stars were bright and cold in the black winter sky. He did not wake to a bell. His body knows the time without being told. After 20 years of this work, after 20 winters and 20 summers of tending to milk and rennet and curd and whey, his body wakes when it needs to wake. His hands know what to do before his mind fully emerges from sleep. He is in the cellar now. He has been here for an hour already, preparing. The cellar is his domain, his workshop, his cathedral. It is not like the chapel above, with its soaring stone arches and colored glass and the smell of incense. No, the cellar is low and cool and dark. The ceiling is vaulted stone, but it presses close. The walls are thick, keeping out the summer heat and the winter cold. The floor is flagstone, worn smooth by centuries of feet, damp always, but not wet. And the smell. The smell is everything. It is earth and stone and something sweeter. It is the smell of milk in all its forms. Fresh milk and aging cheese, cream and butter, whey and curds. It is a smell that makes you hungry and calm at the same time. It is the smell of preservation, of work, of the transformation of the fleeting into the lasting. Brother Thomas moves through this space with the ease of long familiarity. He does not need much light. A single candle burns in an iron holder on the wall, casting long shadows that dance and flicker. But he knows where everything is. He knows the location of every tool, every vessel, every shelf of aging cheese. His feet find the path between the vats and the draining tables and the pressing stones without thought. His hands reach out in the darkness and find what they seek: a ladle, a knife, a length of cheesecloth. Everything is where it should be. Everything is clean and ready. This is the way of things. This is the order that makes the work possible. The copper vat sits in the center of the space. It is massive, large enough that a man could sit inside it if he wished, though no man would wish such a thing. It is burnished and old, older than Brother Thomas, older than any living brother in the monastery. It has been here for generations, passed down from one dairy monk to the next, each learning from the one before. The copper is thick and heavy, and it holds heat well, releasing it slowly, evenly. The outside of the vat is dark with age and smoke, but the inside gleams, polished by milk and curds and the careful cleaning of countless hands. It sits on a stone platform, raised slightly off the floor, and beneath it is the fire pit, cold now, filled with ash from yesterday's work, waiting for today's flame. Brother Thomas has already cleaned this vat. He did so yesterday evening, after the last of the whey was drained away, after the curds were pressed and set to rest. He filled it with water and scrubbed it with salt and a rough cloth, working in the dim light of evening, his arms aching but his mind at peace. Then he emptied the water and wiped it dry and left it here ready. This is the rhythm. You do not make cheese in a dirty vat. You do not cut corners. The milk is precious. The milk is the gift of the cows, who eat the grass that God provides, who give freely of themselves so that men might live. To treat the milk carelessly is to treat the gift carelessly. Brother Thomas learned this when he was young, when he first came to this work, and he has never forgotten it. He stands now beside the vat, his hand resting on the cool rim. He is not a tall man, nor a particularly broad one. 20 years of this work has made him strong in a quiet way, but he does not look powerful. He looks like what he is, a middle-aged monk with a gentle face and work-worn hands, dressed in a simple brown robe tied with a cord, his head tonsured, his feet in worn leather shoes. His beard is neatly trimmed, more gray than brown now. His eyes are kind. They are the eyes of a man who has found his place in the world and is content with it. He breathes in the cellar air, letting it fill his lungs. It is cool but not cold. The earth regulates the temperature down here, keeping it steady year-round. In summer, the cellar is a refuge from the heat. In winter, it is warmer than the world above. The cheese ages slowly in this constant climate, developing flavor and character over months and years. Some of the wheels on the shelves behind him have been here for 3 years, growing sharper and more complex with time. Others are just weeks old, still soft and mild. Each has its place. Each is turned regularly, checked, tended. Brother Thomas knows every wheel by sight, knows which will be ready when, knows which to bring to the abbot's table and which to sell at market, and which to give to the poor who come to the monastery gate seeking food. But today is not about the aging cheese. Today is about making new cheese. Today is about taking what is liquid and turning it solid. Today is about the miracle that happens when you do the same thing you have done 1,000 times before, and yet it still feels like magic. He hears them before he sees them. The sound of footsteps on the stone stairs that lead down from the courtyard above, the scrape of wood on stone, the breathing of men doing heavy work. Brother Thomas turns toward the sound, and a small smile touches his lips. They are right on time. They are always right on time. 3 lay brothers appear in the candlelight, their breath steaming in the cool air. They are younger than Brother Thomas, stronger in the way of youth, and they carry between them the first of the milk buckets. These are not small containers. Each bucket is a heavy oaken vessel, bound with iron, filled nearly to the brim with fresh milk. The milk is still warm from the cows, warm from the bodies that produced it, warm with the life that all milk contains. It sloshes gently as the men move, but they are practiced in this work, and not a drop is spilled. "Good morning, brothers," Brother Thomas says quietly. His voice is soft. It always is. There is no need to speak loudly down here, where every sound echoes off the stone. And there is something about the early morning, about the time before the monastery fully wakes, that invites quiet speech. The lay brothers nod in greeting. They do not speak. They are focused on their task, on the weight they carry, on the careful placement of their feet on the uneven floor. They approach the vat, and Brother Thomas gestures to the wooden stepladder that leans against the platform. One of the brothers sets it in place, while the others hold the bucket steady. Then, with the practiced coordination of men who have done this many times before, they lift the bucket up. Brother Thomas steadies the ladder as the first brother climbs, the bucket held carefully before him. At the top, he lifts the bucket higher, tilting it toward the vat's rim, and begins to pour. The milk flows out in a thick white stream. It catches the candlelight as it falls, gleaming, almost glowing. The stream curves slightly in the air, and then it hits the bottom of the vat with a sound like soft thunder. It is a splash and a glug and a pour all at once. It is the sound of liquid finding its level, spreading out across the copper bottom, filling the space. The sound echoes in the cellar, rich and full and deeply satisfying. Brother Thomas watches the milk pour, and something in his chest loosens, something he did not even know was tight. This is the beginning. This is the first step. Everything that follows depends on this milk being good, being fresh, being full of the richness that will become cheese. The first bucket empties and the brother climbs down. Already the second brother is climbing up with another bucket. The process repeats. Pour, splash, glug. The sound fills the cellar, drowns out everything else. Brother Thomas watches the level rise in the vat. The copper bottom disappears beneath the white liquid. The milk spreads and settles, and small bubbles rise to the surface and pop. Steam rises too, thin wisps of it in the cool air, visible in the candlelight. The milk is warm. Not hot, but warm, blood temperature or close to it. The cows give their milk warm, and if you work quickly, if you bring it straight from the milking shed to the cellar, it stays warm. This is important. Warm milk makes better cheese. Brother Thomas learned this long ago, and he has structured the morning routine around this truth. The buckets keep coming. 3 brothers climbing up and down the ladder, pouring bucket after bucket into the growing pool of milk. Brother Thomas counts silently. 10 buckets, 20, 30. The monastery has 12 cows, good milkers all, and in winter they give less than in spring when the grass is fresh and green, but still they give abundantly. The brothers who tend the cows are skilled in their work. They keep the animals healthy and content. They bring them into the barn at night in winter, bed them in clean straw, feed them hay and turnips. The cows know the brothers and trust them. They give their milk willingly, standing peaceful in their stalls while strong hands work the teats and the milk streams into wooden pails. Brother Thomas has never worked in the milking shed. That is not his domain. But he is grateful for those who do. Without the milk, there would be no cheese. Without the cheese, the monastery would go hungry in the lean months. Everything is connected. Everyone has their role. 40 buckets, 50. The vat is half full now, and the milk is deep and rich and creamy. Brother Thomas can see the color of it in the candlelight, not pure white but slightly yellow. The color of good milk, milk with fat, milk that will make firm cheese and rich whey. He reaches out with his ladle, the long-handled wooden ladle that has served for decades, and dips it into the milk. He lifts it, lets the milk run off the bowl of the ladle in a steady stream, watches how it flows. It is thick. It is good. He nods to himself. Yes, this will do. This will do very well. 60 buckets, 70. The lay brothers are sweating now despite the cool air, and their breath comes heavier. Brother Thomas offers them a cup of water from the jug he keeps nearby, and they drink gratefully between trips up the stairs. There is no rushing. There is no need to hurry. The milk will wait. The day has only just begun. The bell for lauds has not yet rung. In the world above, the sky is still dark, though perhaps a shade lighter at the eastern horizon. The snow continues to fall, soft and steady, blanketing the world in white silence. 80 buckets, 90. The vat is 3/4 full now. The surface of the milk is still and smooth, like a white mirror. Brother Thomas can see the reflection of the candle flame dancing on it, a small point of orange light in a sea of white. He breathes deeply, and the smell of the milk fills his lungs. It is a clean smell, a sweet smell, slightly grassy from the hay the cows have eaten. It is the smell of life and nourishment and possibility. 100 buckets. The last one is poured, and the level in the vat reaches the mark that Brother Thomas knows by heart. It is not marked on the copper. There is no line. But he knows where it should be, and it is there. Perfect. The lay brothers descend the ladder for the last time, their work done. Brother Thomas thanks them, his voice warm with genuine gratitude. They nod and bow slightly and turn to climb the stairs back to the courtyard. They will return the buckets to the milking shed, clean them, ready them for tomorrow. Then they will go to the chapel for lauds. But Brother Thomas will stay here. His prayer is his work. His chapel is this cellar. God is present here in the smell of milk and the cool stone and the ancient rhythms of transformation. He is alone now, just him and the milk. He stands beside the vat, both hands resting on the rim, looking down into the white expanse. The surface is still again, all ripples from the pouring settled. It looks almost solid, but he knows it is not. It is liquid. It is waiting. It is ready to become something else. But first it must be warmed. The milk came warm from the cows. But as it sat in the buckets, as it was carried through the cold morning air, as it was poured into the large copper vat, it cooled. Not much, but enough. Brother Thomas reaches out and lets his hand dip below the surface, just his fingertips. The milk is warm, yes, but not warm enough. It needs to be blood heat. It needs to be the temperature at which the rennet works best, at which the milk transforms most reliably into curd. Too cold and nothing happens. Too hot and the proteins seize up, become grainy, unusable. But at just the right temperature, at that perfect warmth, the magic occurs. Brother Thomas moves to the fire pit beneath the vat. He kneels on the stone floor and his knees protest slightly. He is not as young as he once was, but he ignores the discomfort. It is part of the work. He reaches into the basket beside the pit and pulls out kindling. Dry twigs and small branches, gathered from the orchard in autumn and stored here in the cellar to stay dry. He arranges them carefully in the pit, building a small structure, a little house of wood with space for air to flow. Over this he lays larger sticks, and over those 3 short logs, cut from oak and well seasoned. He strikes flint against steel, and sparks fly into the kindling. Once, twice, 3 times. On the fourth strike, a spark catches and a tiny flame appears. Brother Thomas leans close and blows gently, nursing the flame, feeding it air. The flame grows, spreads, catches another twig and another. Smoke begins to rise, thin and grey, carrying the smell of burning oak. The fire crackles to life, and light blooms in the pit, warm and orange and alive. Brother Thomas sits back on his heels and watches the fire grow. This is a skill he learned as a boy before he came to the monastery, when he lived with his family in a small village miles from here. His father was a farmer, and they had a hearth, and Brother Thomas, who was not Brother Thomas then, but just a boy named Thomas, learned to build fires that would burn steady and long, that would not flare too high or die too soon. It is a skill he has used all his life. It is a skill he is grateful for now. The fire does not need to be large. That is important. Large fires burn too hot, and hot fires boil milk, and boiled milk does not make good cheese. No, the fire needs to be small and steady, a gentle warmth that heats the copper slowly and evenly. Brother Thomas feeds it carefully, adding just enough wood to keep it going, but not so much that it roars. He wants a whisper of flame, not a shout. He wants warmth, not heat. He stands and returns to the rim of the vat. He takes up his ladle again, the long handle smooth and worn from years of gripping, and he dips it into the milk. He stirs. Long, slow circles, the ladle moving through the white liquid like a boat through calm water. He stirs to distribute the warmth evenly, to make sure the milk near the bottom of the vat, where the copper is hottest, does not get too warm while the milk at the top stays cool. He stirs with his whole arm, a smooth circular motion that is almost like a dance, round and round and round. There is something meditative about this motion, something that quiets the mind and focuses the spirit. Brother Thomas has stirred milk countless times, and still, every time, he finds himself falling into the rhythm of it, into the peace of it. The heat from the fire rises through the copper, and slowly, so slowly, the milk begins to warm. Brother Thomas can feel it through the ladle. The resistance of the liquid changes slightly. It becomes less viscous, flows more freely. He dips his hand in again, and yes, it is warmer, not enough yet, but warmer. He stirs some more. He feeds the fire another stick. He waits. Patience is the great teacher in this work. Everything in cheesemaking requires patience. You cannot rush milk to warm. You cannot rush curds to form. You cannot rush cheese to age. The processes take the time they take, and any attempt to hurry them leads only to failure. Brother Thomas learned this the hard way many years ago when he was new to the work and eager to prove himself. He let a fire burn too hot once, trying to speed the warming, and the milk scorched on the bottom of the vat. The smell was terrible, acrid, and wrong, and the entire batch was ruined. He had to confess his mistake to the abbot, and the abbot was kind but firm. "Patience, Thomas," he said. "All good things require patience. Trust the process. Trust the time." Brother Thomas never made that mistake again. He stirs, he waits. He adds wood to the fire, just a little, just enough. He tests the temperature with his hand. Warmer, warmer. The steam rising from the surface of the milk grows thicker. The cellar fills with it, warm and humid and smelling of sweet milk. Brother Thomas's robe grows damp. His face is flushed from the heat of the fire and the work, but his expression is calm. His breathing is slow and steady. He is in his element. He is doing what he was meant to do. Time passes. How much time? Brother Thomas does not know. There is no clock down here, and he does not need one. His body knows the timing. His instinct, honed by years of practice, tells him when the milk is ready. He stirs, he tests. And finally, when he dips his hand into the milk, it is exactly the right temperature. Blood warm, the warmth of life, the warmth at which transformation happens. He stops stirring. He lets the ladle rest against the rim of the vat. The surface of the milk is moving gently from the stirring, small swirls and currents visible in the candlelight. But these will settle. Brother Thomas moves to the fire and uses a long iron poker to spread the logs apart, to reduce the heat. The fire does not need to go out, not yet, but it needs to burn lower. The milk is at temperature, and now it needs to stay there, not get hotter. He will tend the fire as needed, adding a small stick now, and then to keep the warmth steady. Now comes the next step. Now comes the part where liquid begins its journey to solid. Brother Thomas moves to a shelf on the far wall where small clay parts sit in a row. These parts are precious. They contain the rennet, the substance that makes cheese possible. Rennet is the magic, though Brother Thomas knows it is not truly magic, but rather nature, the way God designed the world to work. Rennet is an enzyme, though he does not know that word. He only knows that it comes from the stomach of a calf, that it is what allows the calf to digest its mother's milk, and that when added to warm milk, it causes the milk to thicken, to set, to become curd. The monastery does not make its own rennet. They buy it from a farmer who slaughters calves for veal. The farmer saves the stomachs, processes them, extracts the precious substance, and sells it to those who make cheese. It is expensive but necessary. Without rennet, there would be no cheese. Or rather, there would only be the softest fresh cheeses, the ones made by letting milk sour naturally, and those are fine for summer, but do not keep, do not age, do not feed a monastery through the winter. Brother Thomas takes one of the small parts and removes the waxed cloth that covers it. Inside is a dark liquid, slightly thick, with a smell that is both earthy and faintly sour. This is the rennet, diluted in water to make it easier to mix into the milk. He measures carefully, pouring the liquid into a small cup. He has done this so many times that he knows exactly how much to use for this amount of milk. Too little, and the curd will be weak and loose. Too much, and it will set too fast, too firm, and the texture will be wrong. Everything is balance. Everything is precision born of experience. He carries the cup to the vat. He climbs the ladder himself now, stepping carefully, the cup held steady in one hand. At the top, he pauses, looking down at the surface of the milk. It is still now, perfectly smooth, like a pool of white silk. Steam rises from it in gentle waves. Brother Thomas says a brief prayer, a silent thank you for the milk and the rennet and the work. Then he pours the rennet into the milk, moving the cup in a slow circle around the vat's rim, distributing it evenly. The rennet disappears into the milk without a trace. It is invisible. There is no sign that anything has changed. But Brother Thomas knows that beneath the surface, something profound is beginning to happen. The rennet is spreading through the milk, molecule by molecule, beginning its work. It will take time. Everything takes time. He climbs down the ladder and retrieves his ladle once more. Now he must stir the milk again, but differently this time. Not the long, sweeping circles of before. Now the stirring is gentle, barely disturbing the surface, just enough to make sure the rennet is distributed throughout the entire volume of milk. He moves the ladle through the milk with a light touch, barely any pressure, letting the liquid flow around the wood. Up and down, side to side, gentle and careful. This stirring lasts only a minute or two. Too much, and the curds will not form properly later. Just enough to mix, and then he stops. He pulls the ladle out and sets it aside. The milk is on its own now. The rennet is in it, working its invisible magic. Brother Thomas has done his part. Now he must wait. He must let the transformation happen in its own time. He moves away from the vat and sits down on a low wooden stool near the wall. His legs are tired. His back aches slightly. He is grateful for the rest. The fire burns low beneath the vat, warming the milk gently, keeping it at temperature. The cellar is quiet except for the soft crackle of the flames and the occasional drip of water somewhere in the darkness. Brother Thomas closes his eyes and lets his mind drift. This is the waiting time. This is when there is nothing to do but be patient. He thinks of the cows up in the barn, sleeping now in their stalls, bellies full of hay content. He thinks of the brothers in the chapel, their voices rising in the chants of lauds, praising God in the early morning darkness. He thinks of the abbot in his chamber, perhaps awake, perhaps still sleeping, dreaming of the responsibilities he carries for all who live within these walls. He thinks of the village beyond the monastery's land, where families sleep in their cottages, where children dream under wool blankets, where men and women will rise soon to their own work, their own rhythms of life. Brother Thomas has been part of this monastery for 23 years. He came when he was a young man, barely more than a boy, seeking something he could not name. He had grown up in a world of fields and animals and hard physical labor, and he had been good at that work, strong and capable. But there had been an emptiness in him, a hunger for something more. When the traveling priest came to the village and spoke of the monastery, of a life dedicated to God and prayer and community, something in Thomas's heart had responded. He had asked his parents' blessing, and though they were sad to see him go, they gave it. He had walked to the monastery in autumn with nothing but the clothes on his back and a deep certainty that this was where he needed to be. The abbot at that time, old Abbot Gregory, had welcomed him. They spoke for a long time, sitting in the garden, and the abbot asked him questions about his life and his faith and what he sought. Thomas answered honestly, haltingly, unsure of his own words. And when he was finished, the abbot had smiled and said, "I think you will find what you seek here, my son. But it will not be easy. This life requires dedication. It requires humility. Are you prepared for that?" Thomas had said yes, though he did not fully understand what he was agreeing to. But he had meant it. He had felt the truth of it in his bones. He entered the monastery as a postulant and then as a novice, learning the ways of monastic life. He learned the prayers and the hours of the day and the rules of the order. He learned to live in community, to work alongside his brothers, to subsume his own will to the greater good. It was hard. There were days when he doubted, days when he missed his family and his old life, days when the discipline felt too strict, the work too demanding. But he persisted, and slowly, over time, he found peace. He found that the rhythm of prayer and work suited him. He found that he had come to the right place. After his novitiate, he was assigned to work with Brother Julian, the dairy monk. Brother Julian was old even then, stooped and white-haired, but his hands were steady and his knowledge was vast. He had been making cheese for 40 years, and he knew every secret, every trick, every nuance of the craft. He taught Thomas everything. He taught him to judge the quality of milk by its smell and color. He taught him to feel the temperature with his hand, to know when it was right without needing to think. He taught him to cut curds and press whey and turn aging cheese. He taught him patience and precision and care. Thomas worked alongside Brother Julian for 3 years, learning, practicing, making mistakes and correcting them. And then one winter morning, Brother Julian did not come to the cellar. Thomas went looking for him and found him in his cell, peaceful, his eyes closed, his body still. He had died in his sleep, gentle and quiet, as he had lived. The brothers prayed over him and buried him in the cemetery beyond the chapel. And Thomas, who was no longer a novice but a full brother now, became the dairy monk. He inherited the cellar and the vats and the aging wheels and the responsibility. He was only 23 years old, but he was ready. Brother Julian had prepared him well. That was 20 years ago. Brother Thomas has been the dairy monk for 20 years now. He has made cheese through 20 winters and 20 summers. He has trained younger brothers to help him, passing on what he learned from Brother Julian, just as Brother Julian passed it on to him. He has seen abbots come and go. He has seen the monastery grow and change. But the cellar remains the same. The work remains the same. The milk still comes warm from the cows. The rennet still transforms liquid to solid. The cheese still ages slowly in the cool darkness. These things do not change. These things are constant. Brother Thomas opens his eyes. He does not know how long he has been sitting here, lost in memory. But the fire still burns beneath the vat, and the milk is still transforming. He stands, his knees creaking slightly, and moves back to the vat. He climbs the ladder and looks down at the surface of the milk. It has changed. He can see it immediately. The surface is no longer smooth and liquid. It has thickened. It has taken on a different quality, firmer, more substantial. Brother Thomas reaches out with his hand, palm down, and presses gently on the surface. It resists. It does not flow around his fingers like liquid. It pushes back, solid but yielding. He removes his hand, and the impression of his palm remains for a moment before slowly fading. Yes, it is ready for the next test. He takes his long knife from where it hangs on the wall. This knife is special. It is not sharp like a blade for cutting bread or meat. It is long and thin with a rounded tip, designed specifically for cutting curds. Brother Julian gave him this knife 20 years ago, and before that it belonged to the dairy monk before Brother Julian, and before that to the one before him. It is old. The handle is smooth wood, worn by many hands. The blade is steel, kept clean and dry, never left to rust. Brother Thomas holds the knife over the milk, now curd, now something between liquid and solid. He lowers the blade slowly until the tip touches the surface. Then, with a gentle motion, he presses down. The knife slides into the curd like it is sliding into firm custard. He presses until the knife reaches the bottom of the vat, the copper resonating slightly as the tip touches it. Then he lifts the knife straight up. The curd splits where the knife passed through, and the split edges do not flow back together. They remain separate, and in the split he can see yellow liquid beginning to well up. The whey. The whey is separating from the curd. This is what he was looking for. This is the clean break. A clean break means the rennet has done its work perfectly. The milk has set into a firm, clean curd that will cut well, that will release its whey easily, that will make good cheese. Brother Thomas nods to himself. Excellent. The first step is complete, but now comes the work. Now comes the cutting. He positions himself at the rim of the vat, the knife held firmly but not tightly in his right hand. He takes a breath, centering himself. Then he begins. He lowers the knife into the curd at one edge of the vat and draws it through slowly, steadily, in a straight line all the way across. The knife parts the white curd smoothly, and a thin line of yellow whey appears in its wake. He lifts the knife out, moves it slightly to the left, and makes another cut parallel to the first. The distance between the two cuts is about the width of his thumb. He continues. Cut, lift, move, cut. Cut, lift, move, cut. The motion becomes rhythmic, almost hypnotic. His arm moves with the same steady pace again and again. There is no rushing. There is no variation. Each cut is the same distance from the last. Each cut is straight and true. The curd offers no resistance. The knife glides through it as if through silk. Brother Thomas watches the lines appear, one after another, dividing the surface of the curd into long, thin strips. Yellow whey wells up in each cut, pooling in the narrow channels. The smell of the whey fills the air, sweet and slightly tangy, different from the smell of fresh milk, but still pleasant, still wholesome. He reaches the far edge of the vat. The surface is now covered with parallel lines, 20, 30, 40 of them. But he is not done. Now he must cut in the other direction. He moves around the vat to a different side, positioning himself at a 90-degree angle to where he started. He lowers the knife again and begins a new series of cuts, perpendicular to the first. Cut, lift, move, cut. Cut, lift, move, cut. The new cuts cross the old ones, and the surface of the curd is now divided into a grid, hundreds of small rectangles, each roughly the same size, each separated from its neighbors by thin channels of yellow whey. Brother Thomas's arm is beginning to ache, but he does not stop. The cutting must be done now, while the curd is at the right firmness before it cools too much. He works steadily, methodically, his focus absolute. There is only the knife and the curd and the gentle, repetitive motion. The world narrows to this task. Everything else falls away. The grid is complete, but there is one more step. The cuts he has made so far are vertical, dividing the curd from the surface down to the bottom of the vat. But he must also cut horizontally, dividing each column of curd into smaller pieces. This is trickier. He cannot see what he is doing beneath the surface. He must rely on feel. He inserts the knife at an angle, tilting it so it is nearly horizontal, and pulls it through the curd just below the surface. He can feel the resistance change as the blade moves through the firm white mass. He makes another pass, slightly deeper, and another, until he has cut through the entire depth of the vat in layers. The curd is now divided not into rectangles, but into small cubes, thousands of them, each one roughly the size of a grain of corn. He withdraws the knife and sets it aside. The surface of the curd, or what was the surface, is now a mass of small cubes floating in whey. The yellow liquid has flowed up and over, surrounding each piece, making the whole thing look like a thick, chunky soup. This is what he wanted. This is what must happen next. The curds must be separated from the whey, and this separation begins with the cutting. But the curds are still too large. They are too wet. They need to shrink to release more of their moisture, and to do that they need to be stirred. Brother Thomas takes up his ladle again, and very gently, very carefully, he begins to stir. He moves the ladle through the mixture of curds and whey, his touch light, not wanting to crush the delicate cubes. The motion must be gentle but constant. The curds must move, must tumble against each other, must cook in the warm whey. This cooking, this gentle heating and stirring, will cause them to contract, to squeeze out more liquid, to become firmer and drier. This is what makes a good, long-lasting cheese. Brother Thomas stirs. He stirs with the same patient rhythm that he has used all morning. Round and round, his arm moving in circles, the ladle pushing through the mass of curds and whey. The fire beneath the vat has died down, but the copper still holds heat, keeping the mixture warm. Not hot, never hot, but warm. The curds jostle against each other in the whey. They bump and slide and separate and come together again. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, they begin to shrink. He can feel the change through the ladle. The curds become firmer under the pressure of the wood. They resist more. He reaches in with his other hand and plucks out a single curd, lifts it to the candlelight, squeezes it gently between his fingers. It is firmer than it was. It holds its shape. Whey drips from it, but the curd itself does not break apart. Good. This is good, but it needs more time. He drops the curd back into the vat and continues stirring. Time passes. The candle burns lower. Brother Thomas adds another stick to the fire, just a small one, just enough to keep the temperature steady. He stirs. Above, in the monastery, the brothers have finished lauds and returned to their cells for a brief rest before prime. The sky outside is lighter now, though the sun has not yet risen. The snow has stopped falling, and the world is blanketed in white silence. But down here in the cellar, the work continues. The transformation continues. The curds cook in their way, giving up their moisture, becoming something else. Brother Thomas's shoulder aches, his back aches. His hand, gripping the ladle, is starting to cramp, but he does not stop. This is the price of the work. This is what it costs to make cheese. You give your body to it. You give your time and your strength and your attention. And in return, the milk gives you food, sustenance, something that will last through the winter when fresh milk is scarce, when the cows are dry, when the world is cold and hard. The cheese is a gift, but it is also earned. Every batch is earned. He stirs. He tests the curds again, squeezing one between his fingers, firmer still. He can feel the texture changing, becoming more granular, less smooth. The curds are cooking, they are working. He tests the temperature of the whey with his hand. Still warm. Good. He stirs some more. How long has he been stirring? An hour? More? He is not sure. Time moves differently down here. It stretches and compresses. Minutes can feel like hours, and hours can pass like minutes. Brother Thomas has learned not to fight this, not to watch the time anxiously. He has learned to simply be present in the work, to let the work dictate its own pace. The curds will tell him when they are ready. His hands will know. His body will know. He trusts this knowledge, this deep, wordless understanding that comes from years of practice. And then, at last, the moment comes. He reaches into the vat and takes a handful of curds, squeezes them hard. They compress into a solid mass that holds together even when he releases the pressure. When he breaks the mass apart, it shatters cleanly, like brittle cheese. The curds squeak slightly against his teeth when he chews one. They are dry enough. They are ready. The transformation from liquid milk to solid curd is complete. What remains is to separate the two, to drain away the whey and press the curds, to shape them into wheels that will age and develop flavor and feed the monastery through the dark months ahead. But that work will wait. Brother Thomas is tired. His arms are trembling slightly from the effort of stirring. He needs to rest just for a moment. He needs to sit and breathe and let his body recover. The curds can sit in their way for a short while. They will not spoil. They will not change. They are patient, as everything in this work is patient. He moves away from the vat and sits again on his stool. He flexes his hands, opens and closes his fingers, trying to work out the stiffness. He rolls his shoulders, feeling the muscles protest. He is not young anymore. This work is hard on the body, but it is good work. It is honest work. It is work that feeds people and glorifies God. He would not trade it for anything. The cellar is warm now from the fire and the steam. Brother Thomas's robe clings to his skin, damp with sweat. His face is flushed, but he is content. The work of the morning has gone well. The milk was good. The rennet did its job. The curds have formed perfectly. He has done what needed to be done, and he has done it well. This is enough. This is everything. He sits in the warm, dim cellar, surrounded by the smells of milk and whey and earth, and he feels at peace. He feels grateful. He feels connected to something larger than himself, to the long chain of dairy monks who have worked in this space before him, and to those who will come after. He is a link in that chain, a keeper of knowledge, a practitioner of an ancient craft. And in this moment, tired and sweaty and aching, he feels the rightness of it. He feels that he is exactly where he is meant to be, doing exactly what he is meant to do. The curds wait in the vat, tiny white islands in a yellow sea. The whey glows golden in the candlelight. The fire crackles softly beneath the copper. And Brother Thomas sits in the silence, breathing slow and deep, letting the peace of the work settle into his bones. This is the life he has chosen. This is the life that has chosen him. And he is grateful, so deeply grateful, for every moment of it. Brother Thomas rises from his stool. His legs are stiff, but they hold him. He moves back to the vat, back to the work that waits. The curds have rested long enough. The whey has given them all it can. Now they must be separated, lifted from the golden liquid, drained, shaped, pressed. Now the cheese begins to take its final form. He retrieves a large square of cheesecloth from the shelf where it hangs, folded and clean. This cloth is woven from linen, strong and tightly woven, with holes small enough to hold the curds, but large enough to let the whey pass through. It is one of several that the monastery keeps for this purpose, and when they wear out, the sisters in the nearby convent weave new ones. Everything is connected. Everyone contributes. Brother Thomas spreads the cheesecloth over a large wooden draining table that sits beside the vat. The table is tilted slightly, angled so that liquid will run off the edge into a collecting trough below. The wood is old and dark, stained with years of whey, worn smooth by countless batches of cheese. He smooths the cloth flat, making sure there are no wrinkles, no folds that might create weak spots. Then he returns to the vat with a large wooden scoop. The scoop is bowl-shaped and deep, carved from a single piece of oak, with a long handle that lets him reach down into the vat without climbing the ladder. He dips it into the mixture of curds and whey, feeling the weight of it increase as the scoop fills. He lifts, and liquid streams from the holes in the bowl, pouring back into the vat in thin yellow streams. The curds remain, caught in the wood, a mass of small white pieces clumped together. He carries the scoop to the draining table and tips it over the cheesecloth. The curds tumble out, landing with a soft, wet sound. They spread across the cloth, and immediately whey begins to seep through the fabric, dripping onto the table, running down the tilted surface, falling into the trough below. Drip, drip, drip. The sound is gentle, rhythmic, like rain on leaves. Each drop catches the candlelight as it falls, a small bead of golden liquid. The drops come quickly at first, the curds still saturated with whey, still heavy with moisture. Brother Thomas returns to the vat with his scoop, dips it in again, lifts another load of curds. Again he carries them to the table, tips them onto the growing pile on the cheesecloth. More whey drips through. The sound multiplies, becomes a soft chorus of drips, slightly out of sync with each other, creating a pattern that is both random and ordered. Drip, 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 drip. Brother Thomas works steadily, scooping and carrying, scooping and carrying. His arms are still tired from the stirring, but this is different work, different muscles. The scoop is heavy, especially when full, and he must be careful not to spill. He moves between vat and table, his feet finding the same path each time, wearing a groove into the rhythm of the work. The pile of curds on the cheesecloth grows. The level of whey in the vat drops. The dripping continues, constant and soothing. The whey that runs into the trough is precious too. Nothing is wasted in the monastery. The whey will be fed to the pigs, who love it and grow fat on it. Or it will be given to the chickens, mixed with grain. Or it will be used to make a simple cheese of its own, ricotta, recooked, heated until the proteins that remain in the whey coagulate into small, soft curds. But that is work for later, for another day. Today, the focus is on the main cheese, the hard cheese that will age and keep. Brother Thomas scoops the last of the curds from the vat. The bottom of the copper is visible now, shining wetly in the candlelight, covered with a thin film of whey. He will clean this later, scrub it out, prepare it for tomorrow's batch. But not yet. First, the curds must be dealt with. He sets the scoop aside and approaches the draining table. The pile of curds is large, a small mountain of white rising from the center of the cheesecloth. Whey still drips from it, though more slowly now. The fabric is dark with wetness, saturated but holding. Brother Thomas gathers the four corners of the cheesecloth and lifts them together. The fabric tightens around the curds, cinching them into a bundle. Whey streams out, running down the cloth, dripping from the bottom of the bundle. He lifts higher, and the bundle swings slightly, heavy and pendulous. He can feel the weight of it, the solid mass inside the cloth. This is no longer liquid milk. This is something else, something substantial, something real. He carries the bundle to a sturdy wooden hook that hangs from a beam in the ceiling. The hook is positioned directly over a large wooden bucket. Brother Thomas lifts the bundle and loops the gathered corners of the cheesecloth over the hook. The cloth holds. The bundle hangs suspended, dripping steadily into the bucket below. Drip, drip, drip. He adjusts the cloth, making sure the weight is evenly distributed, making sure the bundle will not slip. Then he steps back and watches. The whey drips from the bottom of the bundle in a steady stream that quickly becomes drops. Drip, drip, drip. Each drop falls through the air, catches the light, splashes into the growing pool of whey in the bucket. The sound is hypnotic. Brother Thomas stands and watches and listens. There is something deeply satisfying about this, about seeing the liquid separate from the solid, about watching the transformation continue. The curds in the bundle are compressing under their own weight, squeezing out the last of the easily released whey. They are becoming denser, drier, more cohesive. He lets the bundle hang for a long time. There is no rushing this either. The whey must drain at its own pace. Force it, squeeze it too quickly, and the curds will become grainy, will lose their smooth texture. Patience, always patience. Brother Thomas busies himself with other tasks while he waits. He tends to the fire, spreading the last of the coals, letting it die down to ash. He takes the empty milk buckets that the lay brothers left stacked in the corner and carries them up the stairs to the courtyard, where he rinses them with water from the well and sets them aside to dry. He returns to the cellar and begins to clean the vat, filling it partially with water and scrubbing the copper with salt and a rough cloth. The sun has risen outside. He cannot see it from the cellar, but he knows it by the quality of light that filters down the stairs. The darkness of night has given way to the grey light of a winter morning. The brothers are awake now, moving through their morning routines. Prime has been sung in the chapel. The kitchen is busy preparing the day's meals. The monastery is alive with quiet activity. But here in the cellar, time moves differently. Here, the work continues at its own pace, unhurried, unrushed. Brother Thomas finishes cleaning the vat and dries it with a clean cloth. He checks the hanging bundle of curds. The dripping has slowed significantly. Drip, drip, drip. Long pauses between each drop now. He reaches up and presses his hand against the bottom of the bundle, feeling the firmness of the curds inside. They have compacted well. They are ready for the next step. He unhooks the bundle from the ceiling beam and carries it, still dripping slowly, to the pressing table. The pressing table is a heavy wooden structure against one wall, built specifically for this purpose. It has a flat top with a slight lip around the edges to catch any escaping whey. On the table sits a wooden mold, circular, with slatted sides that allow liquid to drain out. The mold is old, like everything else in this cellar, made of oak, dark with age and use. Brother Thomas sets the bundle down on the table and carefully unwraps the cheesecloth. The curds are now formed into a rough mass, clumped together, white and damp and slightly crumbly. He lifts the mass carefully and places it into the mold. It fills the mold almost perfectly, generations of dairy monks having learned exactly how much milk produces a wheel that fits just right. He takes a flat wooden disc, called a follower, and places it on top of the curds. The follower fits snugly inside the mold, resting directly on the surface of the cheese. Its job is to distribute pressure evenly across the top of the wheel. Then Brother Thomas positions the press. The press is a mechanical marvel, simple but effective. It consists of a heavy wooden screw, as thick as a man's arm, mounted vertically on a frame above the mold. At the top of the screw is a wide wooden handle. At the bottom is a flat pressing plate. Brother Thomas positions the pressing plate directly above the follower, then begins to turn the handle. The screw turns slowly, smoothly, the threads biting as the plate descends. Brother Thomas turns the handle with both hands, pulling it around in a circle, around and around. The wood of the screw is worn smooth by decades of use, and it moves easily despite its size. The pressing plate makes contact with the follower. Brother Thomas continues to turn. The pressure begins to build. He can feel it in the resistance of the handle, in the way the wood creaks slightly under the strain. The pressure forces whey out of the curds. It seeps out through the slatted sides of the mold, running down onto the table, dripping into the trough at the edge. More whey, always more. The curds seem to hold an impossible amount of liquid, and only through pressing can the last of it be extracted. Brother Thomas turns the handle. The wood creaks. The pressing plate descends fraction by fraction. The whey drips steadily onto the table. He turns the handle more, pulling hard now, using his weight to help move it. The pressure increases. The creaking grows louder. The wood of the mold groans under the stress. But it holds. It always holds. This mold has pressed countless wheels of cheese, and it will press countless more. Brother Thomas continues to turn until he can turn no more, until the handle will not budge even with all his strength behind it. Then he stops, steps back, and wipes his forehead with his sleeve. The cheese is under pressure now. The curds are being compressed into a solid mass, squeezed together so tightly that they will fuse, will become one piece rather than thousands of separate grains. This pressing will last for hours. The whey will continue to seep out slowly as the pressure forces every last bit of moisture from the center of the wheel. Brother Thomas will return periodically to tighten the screw further, to increase the pressure as the cheese compresses and makes room for the plate to descend more. But for now, the pressing can proceed on its own. Brother Thomas has other work to attend to. He moves to a different part of the cellar, to another table where 3 wheels of cheese sit waiting. These wheels were made yesterday, pressed throughout the night, and now they are ready for the next step. He approaches the first wheel and examines it carefully. The cheese has come out of the mold. It is a perfect disc, round and smooth, about the width of a man's shoulders and as thick as his hand. The surface is pale, almost white, slightly damp, with a texture that is smooth but not slick. Brother Thomas runs his hand over it, feeling the coolness of it, the firmness. He presses gently with his thumb, and the cheese gives slightly, then springs back. Good. The texture is right. The pressing was successful. This wheel will age well. He reaches for a wooden bowl filled with coarse salt. The salt is grey-white, crystalline, harvested from the sea and brought to the monastery by merchants. It is precious, expensive, but necessary. Salt preserves. Salt protects. Salt draws out the last moisture from the surface of the cheese and forms a barrier against mold and bacteria. Without salt, cheese would spoil quickly. With salt, it can last for years. Brother Thomas takes a handful of salt, feeling the rough crystals against his palm. He holds his hand over the wheel and lets the salt fall, sprinkling it evenly across the top surface. The white crystals catch the light as they fall, glittering briefly before settling onto the pale cheese. Then he begins to rub. He uses both hands, pressing the salt into the surface of the cheese, working it in with small circular motions. The salt scrapes slightly as it moves, making a soft, grinding sound. The cheese darkens where the salt touches it, absorbing moisture from the surface. Brother Thomas works methodically, covering every inch of the top surface, making sure the salt is evenly distributed, worked into every small imperfection. His hands move in circles, round and round, the motion soothing, meditative. The crystals dissolve slowly under the warmth and pressure of his palms, becoming a brine that soaks into the rind. He can feel the texture changing, the surface becoming slightly rougher, slightly drier. When the top is completely salted, he takes both hands and grips the wheel at its edges, then carefully flips it over. The cheese is heavy, dense, but he has done this thousands of times, and his movements are sure. The unsalted bottom surface is now on top, pale and waiting. He takes another handful of salt and repeats the process. Sprinkle, rub, work the crystals into the surface. His hands move in their circles, patient and thorough. The sound of salt on cheese fills the cellar, a soft, grainy whisper. When the bottom is completely salted, he rubs salt around the curved edge of the wheel, the rind that will eventually harden and protect the cheese inside. Every surface must be salted. Every surface must be protected. Brother Thomas finishes with the first wheel and moves to the second, then the third. Each one receives the same careful attention, the same thorough salting. His hands are beginning to ache from the work, and the salt stings where there are small cuts and cracks in his skin. But this is part of the work too. Every dairy monk has hands that are marked by salt, dried and roughened by constant contact with brine. It is a small price to pay. When all 3 wheels are salted, he carries them one by one to a shelf near the wall, a shelf designated for new cheese, cheese that is still wet, still settling into its final form. He places each wheel carefully, making sure they are not touching each other, making sure air can circulate around them. They will sit here for 3 days, being salted each day, absorbing the salt, developing their rinds. Then they will be ready to move to the aging cellar, to join the wheels that wait in the darkness, slowly transforming, slowly becoming something extraordinary. Brother Thomas wipes his hands on his robe and looks around the cellar. The vat is clean. The new cheese is pressing. The fresh wheels are salted. The morning's work is progressing well. He allows himself a moment of satisfaction, but there is still more to do. There is always more to do. The aging cheese must be tended. The wheels in the aging cellar must be checked, turned, washed. They cannot be neglected. They are alive, in a way. They are changing every day, and they must be monitored, cared for, guided in their transformation. He takes up a candle lantern from the shelf and lights it. Then he walks to the back of the cellar, to a low doorway set in the far wall. The doorway is stone, arched, old. Beyond it, stone steps lead down into darkness. This is the way to the aging cellar, the deep cellar, the cave beneath the monastery where the temperature is constant and the humidity is high and the cheese ages slowly over months and years. Brother Thomas has descended these steps countless times, but even now, each time he does so, he feels a small thrill of anticipation. The aging cellar is a treasure house, a vault of preserved abundance. It is where the monastery's wealth, its food security, its ability to survive the hard times is stored. He begins to descend. The steps are worn smooth by centuries of feet, slightly uneven, and he places his feet carefully, one hand on the wall for balance, the other holding the lantern. The candlelight pushes back the darkness, but does not eliminate it. Shadows dance on the stone walls as he moves downward. The air grows cooler as he descends, damper, filled with a smell that is rich and complex. It is the smell of aging cheese, concentrated, layered, a smell composed of 100 different notes. There is sharpness and sweetness, earthiness and funk, a tang that pricks the nose and a creaminess that soothes it. It is the smell of time itself, of transformation, of patience rewarded. The steps end, and Brother Thomas finds himself in the aging cellar. He holds the lantern high and looks around. The space is larger than the working cellar above, but lower, the ceiling just above his head. The walls are stone, the floor is stone, everything is stone and earth and darkness. But arranged throughout the space, on wooden shelves that line the walls and form rows in the center, are the wheels of cheese. Hundreds of them. Some small, some large, some pale and fresh, some golden and dark with age. They sit on the shelves in neat rows, each wheel separated from its neighbors by a hand's width, each one resting on a bed of clean straw. Brother Thomas walks slowly down the central aisle, the lantern light revealing the wheels one by one. Each wheel is at a different stage of aging. The newest ones, closest to the entrance, are pale and damp, their rinds still soft, still forming. As he walks deeper into the cellar, the wheels grow progressively older. Their rinds darken, becoming yellowish, then golden, then deep amber. Their surfaces develop texture, some growing a fine bloom of white mold that Brother Thomas encourages, some developing a slight oiliness that he wipes away. The smell intensifies as he moves deeper, becoming stronger, more assertive. He stops at the first row and examines the wheels closely. These are about 2 weeks old, still relatively young. He reaches out and touches the rind of one wheel, pressing gently. It is firm but still has some give. He lifts the wheel slightly, feeling its weight, then sets it back down and rotates it, turning it a quarter turn on its bed of straw. This turning is essential. If a wheel sits in the same position for too long, it will develop flat spots, uneven rinds, pockets of moisture that can lead to bad mold. By turning each wheel regularly, Brother Thomas ensures even aging, even drying, even development of flavor. He moves to the next wheel and repeats the process. Check, feel, turn. Check, feel, turn. The motion becomes automatic, his hands knowing what to do without his mind needing to direct them. He works his way down the row, turning each wheel, examining each one for any signs of trouble. A crack in the rind, an unusual color, a soft spot. These things are rare, but they do happen, and when they do, they must be addressed immediately. A single spoiled wheel can contaminate its neighbors if not caught in time. Brother Thomas moves to the next row, and the next, working methodically through the cellar. The wheels here are older, a month, 2 months. Their rinds are darker, harder. When he taps them with his knuckle, they sound hollow, resonant. He turns them, checking them, nodding to himself when he finds them progressing well. Some of these wheels are spoken for, promised to buyers at the market, or reserved for the abbot's table, or designated for the poor. Brother Thomas keeps a mental inventory of every wheel, knows which is which, knows when each will be ready. It is a complex accounting, but he has been doing it for so long that it is second nature. He reaches the oldest wheels, the ones that have been aging for a year or more. These are at the very back of the cellar, in the coolest, most stable part of the space. They are dark now, their rinds like leather, hard and dry. Some have developed a coating of white crystals on their surface, calcium lactate that has leached out of the cheese, a sign of age and proper development. Brother Thomas touches these wheels reverently. These are the treasures. These are the wheels that will be saved for special occasions, for the visit of the bishop, for the feast of a major saint. The flavor of these old wheels is intense, complex, sharp, and nutty, and full of umami richness. They are worth their weight in silver. But even these old wheels must be turned, must be checked. Brother Thomas handles them carefully, lifting each heavy wheel, rotating it, setting it back down gently. They are firm, almost rock hard. When he scratches the rind lightly with his thumbnail, it barely gives. These wheels could last for years more if needed. They are preservation itself, summer's milk transformed into something that defies time. As he works, Brother Thomas becomes aware of the silence. Down here beneath the earth, there is almost no sound, no wind, no footsteps from above, just the soft rustle of straw as he sets down each wheel, the quiet creak of the wooden shelves under their weight, his own breathing. It is a profound silence, a silence that feels almost alive. The cheese rests in this silence, undisturbed, slowly changing, slowly becoming itself. Brother Thomas has always loved this about the aging cellar. It is a place of peace, of stillness, of patience made manifest. He finishes turning all the wheels and turns his attention to the next task, washing. Not every wheel needs to be washed every day, but many do, especially the younger ones, the ones whose rinds are still soft and vulnerable. Brother Thomas carries his lantern to a small table at the back of the cellar where he keeps his supplies. There is a bucket of brine, salt water, mixed fresh this morning. There is a soft brush made of boar's bristles. There is a clean cloth for wiping. He dips the brush into the brine and returns to the first row of wheels. He chooses one that is about 3 weeks old, its rind just beginning to firm up and begins to brush. He uses gentle strokes, working the brine into the surface of the rind, cleaning away any dust or unwanted mold, encouraging the development of the protective coating. The brush moves in small circles, and the sound it makes is soft, rhythmic. S-H-S-H-S-H-S-H. S-H-S-H-S-H-S-H. The bristles against the cheese, the liquid spreading across the surface, the motion of his hand. It is meditative work, work that requires attention but not intense concentration, work that lets the mind wander while the hands stay busy. Brother Thomas brushes one side of the wheel, then turns it and brushes the other side, then the edge. Every surface must be washed. The brine glistens on the rind, darkening it temporarily before soaking in. He wipes away the excess with his cloth, then moves to the next wheel. Dip, brush, turn, brush, wipe. Dip, brush, turn, brush, wipe. The rhythm is soothing. The repetitive motion, the soft sounds, the smell of cheese and brine filling his nostrils. This is work that could be tedious, but Brother Thomas has never found it so. He takes pleasure in it. He takes pride in keeping his cheese clean and healthy and giving each wheel the care it needs. He works his way through the younger wheels, washing each one that needs it. Some wheels he passes over, judging that they do not need washing today. Too much washing can be as bad as too little, making the rind too wet, encouraging the wrong kinds of mold. Brother Thomas has learned to read the cheese, to know what each wheel needs by looking at it, touching it, smelling it. This knowledge cannot be taught from a book. It can only be learned through experience, through years of making the same observations again and again until they become intuitive. The washing takes a long time. Brother Thomas's arm grows tired from the brushing, but he does not hurry. Each wheel deserves his full attention. When he finishes the last wheel, he stands back and looks at his work. The washed wheels gleam slightly in the lantern light, their rinds clean and healthy, ready to continue their slow transformation. He rinses the brush in the bucket and sets it aside to dry. He will come back tomorrow and do this again, and the day after that, and the day after that. This is the rhythm of the work. Daily attention, daily care, ensuring that nothing is neglected, that every wheel has what it needs to age properly. Brother Thomas walks slowly back down the central aisle toward the entrance, holding his lantern high, casting one last look over the rows of cheese. The sight fills him with a deep sense of satisfaction. This is the monastery's store, its security against want. If the harvest fails, if the winter is harsh, if times are hard, this cheese will feed them. It will sustain them. The work he does here, the work of transforming milk into something that lasts, is as important as any work done in the monastery. It is as important as the prayers in the chapel, or the tending of the sick, or the teaching of the young. It is all part of the same fabric, the same commitment to community and survival, and the glorification of God through labor. He reaches the stairs and begins to climb, his legs heavy with fatigue. The climb feels longer than the descent. He emerges into the working cellar, and the light seems bright after the darkness below, though it is still just candlelight. He sets the lantern down and stretches, feeling his back protest. He is tired. It has been a long morning, but he is not quite finished. There is one more thing he must do. He walks to the aging shelf where the newest wheels sit, the three he salted earlier. He will leave them alone for today. They are fresh and need no further attention. But next to them are other wheels, wheels that are ready to be tasted, to be evaluated. One wheel in particular catches his eye. It is 6 months old, right at the age when this type of cheese reaches its peak flavor. Brother Thomas made this wheel himself on a summer day when the milk was especially rich, when the cows had been eating clover in the upper pasture. He has been watching this wheel for weeks, waiting for the right moment. And now, he thinks, the moment has come. He lifts the wheel from the shelf and carries it to the work table. It is heavy, dense, the rind a beautiful golden amber color. He sets it down gently and retrieves his long knife, the one he used to cut the curds this morning. But now he will use it for a different purpose. He positions the knife at the center of the wheel and presses down. The rind resists for a moment, hard and dry, then the blade breaks through. He cuts downward, through the entire wheel, splitting it in half. Then he cuts again, quartering it. 1/4 he will take to the abbot. 1/4 will go to the kitchen for the brothers' meal. 1/4 will be given to the poor at the gate. And 1/4 he will keep here for evaluation and for the small samples he gives to buyers at the market. He takes one of the quarters and cuts a thin slice from it. The interior of the cheese is pale gold, slightly darker than the outside, with a smooth, dense texture. There are no holes, no pockets of air. This is a hard cheese, a pressed cheese solid throughout. Brother Thomas holds the slice up to the candlelight and examines it. The color is even. The texture looks perfect. He brings it to his nose and inhales. The smell is rich, complex, nutty with a hint of caramel sweetness and an underlying sharpness. Then he tastes it. He places the slice on his tongue and lets it sit there for a moment, warming, beginning to melt slightly from his body heat. Then he begins to chew. The cheese is firm but not hard, yielding slowly under his teeth. It has a slight crumble to it, a graininess that is pleasant, textural, and the flavor. The flavor blooms in his mouth, layer upon layer. First, there is sweetness, the sweetness of the milk of the summer grass. Then comes nuttiness, rich and toasted, like hazelnuts or brown butter. Then a sharpness, a tang that pricks the tongue and makes his mouth water. And underneath it all, a savory depth, an umami richness that satisfies something primal. Brother Thomas chews slowly, letting the flavor develop, letting it fill his mouth and then his awareness. This is good cheese. This is very good cheese. Perhaps one of the best wheels he has made this year. The cows, the milk, the rennet, the timing, the pressing, the salting, the aging, everything came together perfectly. This is what he works for. These moments of tasting, when he can hold the finished product of months of labor on his tongue and know that it is good, that it is worthy. These moments make everything worthwhile. He swallows and cuts another slice, a slightly thicker one. He will take this to the abbot, along with the quarter wheel, and he will watch the abbot's face as he tastes it. The abbot appreciates good cheese. He understands the work that goes into it. He will be pleased. Brother Thomas wraps the 3/4 destined for other uses in clean cloth and sets them aside. The remaining quarter he places back on the shelf, covered for his own use. The bell rings for sext, the midday prayer. Brother Thomas hears it faintly coming from the chapel above. The day has progressed. The morning is gone. He has been working for hours, and yet it feels like no time at all. Time always moves strangely in the cellar, compressed and expanded, measured not by the movement of the sun, but by the rhythms of the work. He should go. He should climb the stairs, cross the courtyard, enter the chapel, join his brothers in prayer. But for a moment, he simply stands in the cellar, in the warm, cheese-scented air, and allows himself to feel tired, to feel satisfied, to feel grateful. He looks at the cheese pressing in its mold, the screws turned tight, the whey no longer dripping, the wheel taking its final form. He looks at the shelves of aging cheese behind him, the rows of golden wheels waiting in the darkness. He thinks of the wheel he just tasted, the perfect balance of flavor and texture, the culmination of a season's work. He thinks of the milk that will come again tomorrow, warm from the cows, ready to be transformed. The cycle continues. The work continues. And he is part of it, a small but necessary part of this great chain of making and tending and preserving. Brother Thomas extinguishes his candle. The cellar falls into shadow, lit only by the dim light from the stairs. He moves toward that light, toward the doorway, toward the world above. But before he leaves, he turns back one last time, looking at the space he has spent his morning tending. Everything is in order. Everything is as it should be. The new cheese rests under its press. The wheels age quietly in their cellar. The work of today is done. Tomorrow there will be more milk, more curds, more whey, more wheels to turn and wash and tend. But that is tomorrow. Today is complete. He climbs the stairs slowly, feeling the weight of the morning's labor in his legs and back and shoulders. He emerges into the courtyard, and the brightness of the winter day makes him squint. The snow has stopped. The sky is clear and pale blue. The sun, weak and winter-white, shines down on the monastery, making the snow sparkle. Brothers move across the courtyard, going about their work, and they nod to Brother Thomas as he passes. He nods back but does not stop to talk. He is tired. His body needs rest. But more than that, he needs prayer. He needs to join his voice with the voices of his brothers, to give thanks for the work, for the milk, for the cheese, for the daily bread that sustains them all. He enters the chapel and takes his place among the brothers. The familiar words of the Psalms wash over him, and he adds his voice to theirs, chanting the ancient prayers. His mind is still partly in the cellar, still with the cheese, but that is all right. Work and prayer are not separate in the monastic life. They are two aspects of the same devotion, two ways of honoring God. The work of his hands in the cellar is prayer, and this prayer in the chapel gives meaning to the work of his hands. They are intertwined, inseparable, each supporting and enriching the other. When the office is finished, Brother Thomas returns to his cell. It is a small room, barely large enough for a narrow bed, a small table, a stool, and a shelf for his few possessions. He sits on the edge of his bed and removes his shoes, which are damp from the cellar floor. He lies down, still in his robe, and closes his eyes. He does not mean to sleep, only to rest for a moment, but almost immediately he drifts off, falling into a deep, dreamless sleep, the sleep of the body that has worked hard and well. When he wakes, the light coming through his small window has changed. The afternoon is well advanced. He has slept for several hours. He sits up, disoriented for a moment, then remembers where he is, who he is, what he does. He stands and stretches, feeling his muscles protest, but also feeling refreshed. The sleep has done him good. He puts his shoes back on and returns to the cellar. The cheese in the press has settled further. Brother Thomas checks it, turns the screw a little tighter, compressing it more. A small amount of whey seeps out, the last of it. By evening, this wheel will be ready to come out of the mold, to be salted, to begin its journey toward becoming what it is meant to be. But that is work for later. For now, he tends to other small tasks. He cleans the tools he used this morning, the ladles and knives and cloths, washing them in clean water and setting them to dry. He sweeps the floor of the cellar, pushing the dust and bits of straw into a corner to be removed later. He checks the aging cheese again, making one more circuit through the rows, looking for any changes, any problems. Everything is well. As evening approaches, Brother Thomas returns to the press and begins to loosen the screw. He turns the handle in the opposite direction and the pressure releases with a faint creak. The pressing plate rises. He removes it, then removes the follower. Below in the mold is the wheel of cheese. It has been compressed into a solid, uniform disc, smooth and firm. Brother Thomas carefully tips the mold, and the wheel slides out onto his waiting hands. It is perfect. The shape is regular. The texture is even. There are no cracks, no flaws. This wheel will age beautifully. He carries it to the salting table and begins the process again. Salt sprinkled on the surface. Salt rubbed in with circular motions of his palms. The crystals scraping softly against the cheese. The familiar, soothing rhythm of the work. When the wheel is completely salted on all sides, he places it on the shelf with the others, adding one more to the monastery's store, one more disk of preserved abundance, one more small miracle of transformation. The bell rings for vespers, the evening prayer. Brother Thomas wipes his hands on his robe and climbs the stairs one last time. He crosses the courtyard in the fading light, enters the chapel, takes his place. His voice joins the others in the chant, rising and falling, filling the stone space with sound and devotion. He is tired, bone-tired, but he is content. The work of the day is complete. The milk became curd. The curd became cheese. The cheese will age and nourish and sustain. This is his calling. This is his prayer. This is his life. After Vespers, the brothers gather in the refectory for the evening meal. They eat in silence, as is the custom, while one brother reads aloud from a holy text. The food is simple: bread, soup, vegetables, and tonight, as a treat, a portion of cheese. Brother Thomas recognizes it as one of his wheels, aged about 4 months, sharp and flavorful. He eats his portion slowly, savoring it, feeling a quiet pride that his work is feeding his brothers. Around him, the other monks eat with similar quiet focus, their faces peaceful in the candlelight. After the meal, there is a brief period of recreation when the brothers are permitted to talk quietly. Brother Thomas sits with a few of the older monks, and they discuss the day's work. One brother asks about the new batch of cheese, and Brother Thomas describes the quality of the morning's milk, the cleanness of the curd, his confidence that this will be a good wheel. The other monks listen attentively. They may not work in the dairy, but they understand its importance. They have all tasted the cheese, all benefited from Brother Thomas's skill. They respect the work he does. As the evening draws to a close, the bell rings for Compline, the final prayer of the day. The brothers file into the chapel once more, their movements slow with fatigue, their voices softer now. They chant the closing psalms, asking for protection through the night, giving thanks for the day that has passed, commending themselves to God's care. Brother Thomas's voice is barely audible, a whisper among whispers, but he is present, he is participating, he is part of this community that lives and works and prays together. When Compline is finished, the monks file out in silence and return to their cells. The great silence has begun, the time from Compline until morning when no word is to be spoken except in emergency. Brother Thomas walks slowly across the dark courtyard, his breath steaming in the cold night air. Above, the stars are brilliant, sharp points of light in the black winter sky. He pauses for a moment and looks up at them, feeling small and insignificant, and yet somehow connected to everything, to the earth beneath his feet, and the stars above, and the sleeping cheese in the cellar below. He enters his cell and prepares for bed. He removes his shoes and robe, folds them neatly, and lies down on his narrow bed under his wool blanket. The bed is hard, the blanket scratchy, but he does not mind. His body is so tired that any surface would feel comfortable. He closes his eyes and begins to drift towards sleep. But before sleep takes him completely, his mind returns, as it always does, to the cellar. He sees the rows of cheese, the golden wheels resting on their shelves. He sees them aging in the darkness, the slow chemical changes happening inside them, the proteins breaking down, the flavors developing, the transformation continuing even in the stillness of night. The cheese sleeps, but it is not dormant. It is alive with activity, microscopic and invisible, but real. The bacteria inside the cheese are working, consuming, transforming. The enzymes are breaking down long molecular chains into shorter, more flavorful compounds. The salt is drawing moisture from the interior toward the rind, where it evaporates slowly into the air. The aging is happening every moment, every hour, every day, a process that cannot be rushed, that takes the time it takes. And Brother Thomas, lying in his bed, falling into sleep, is connected to that process. He has set it in motion. He has created the conditions for it to succeed. And tomorrow and the day after and for months to come, he will tend it, guide it, protect it, until the cheese is ready, until it has become fully itself. His breathing slows and deepens. His body relaxes into the bed. The day's work releases its hold on his muscles. His mind quiets. And in that quiet there is peace. There is the knowledge that the work he does matters, that it feeds people, that it is necessary and good. There is gratitude for the milk, and the rennet, and the salt, and the copper vat, and the wooden shelves, and the cool earth of the aging cellar. There is trust in the process, in the ancient rhythms of making and tending and preserving. There is faith that tomorrow the cows will give milk again, and he will be there to receive it, to transform it, to continue the work. And as the rows of golden wheels rest in the cool dark, holding the memory of the summer fields, the work is done. The cellar is locked, and you are safe. Sleep well.